Hello everybody, welcome back to Language, Litigation, and Integration. I am your host, Brad. My constitutional rights remain violated. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 8 of the United States Constitution gives you a right to your writings and discoveries. You can look right here on this channel. From rhythm to algorithm establishes linguistics geometrically, literally proving spelling as a consequence of geometry. All of the letters you look at and use are shapes, and that consequence, that proof, has profound consequences for the entire species, for the entire planet, and it is being restricted. Suppressing scientific information continues to cause more death and destruction across the entire planet than any single action or collective action that has ever occurred. So I continue to emphasize that. That has been going on for 10 years. If you're just watching this on YouTube, there's nothing you can do. There's nothing I can do. Everybody that functions at any high level, government, academia, business, they're all aware of it, but they will not do the right thing. And so we continue to document history, continuing to emphasize my rights are violated. Clearly that doesn't matter. I continue to try to appeal to the law. That doesn't matter. And once that's broken, there's just nothing to appeal to. You can try to appeal to values, nobody has any. And most importantly, people are just too pathetic to make decisions. Not really the point. I have to start off, this is this series in which I document the legal consequences and detriments and damages that I've incurred most explicitly, but we still focus on overall law, history, and at this point, it kind of sounds weird, but solved law, but articulated all of the fundamental ontology that is present. Law preserves consent, law preserves fairness, law preserves justice. And that justice, that fairness, that law emerges from human behavior or from whatever legal structure the species presents. And so, right, our laws, what is common law? If you study law, go to law school, read the word jurisprudence, people will say judicial decision is common law. Wrong. Common experience is the common denominator. What you know is wrong, right? If you're sitting there saying, hey, should I steal something? Hey, should I violently assault somebody? Hey, should I do this or that? And you can feel that's wrong. That feeling is common law. It is your awareness of consent, right? Hey, right, I'm walking down the street. I see $1,000 in a nice handbag in a store. I can say, I'm selfish enough. I can break that, violate somebody else's consent. Right, somebody worked for that, somebody's an employee there, and take that thing because, hey, my life matters more than somebody else's. My needs, my wants are more relevant. My selfishness is more relevant than the other person's consent. And so law preserves consent. And that's, again, it emerges from your fundamental experience as an individual amongst a species. You know when you're doing something wrong. You might trespass on someone's lawn or go on some property that's not yours accidentally, but you don't violate common law accidentally. Everyone has a sense of what right and wrong is. That is common law. And so we document, again, different specific cases, but like I said, we've proven, and if you follow the actual derivation sections, the from rhythm to algorithm, you see how intimately tort is, distortion, extort, so on and so forth. And then the concept of a tort is defined legally. And so huge chunks of derivation, when what people would call mathematics, is legal discourse. And so you can see that, but the point being is we've covered as much as the fundamentals as you can, literally. And so just when anytime cases come up that are interesting, that I want to talk about police procedure, but law enforcement in general. And again, emphasizing law enforcement is a social responsibility of everybody. The citizens, the people with badges, the judges, the business owners, everybody. And so the more we can preserve consent everywhere, the less there's even the motivation to commit any crime whatsoever. We're never going to do away with accidents, but crime really emerges from this selfishness along with, viability. Hey, can I get away with this? As technology has increased, the viability of being a criminal has, in our lifetimes, in our recent history, has decreased profound and tremendously. Look at organized crime throughout the 20s up until like the 80s or 90s. There's still a couple guys floating around on the internet. There's still people around, but just the overall both power and operation of organizations with technology is profoundly limiting crime. But in reality, if you eliminate the motivation, which is really financial discrepancy, sure, there's younger people trying to be tough and they'll be gangbangers or do this or do that. But the real reality is the vast majority of all crime is committed as a form of necessity or a perversion of necessity. And if you take away that perversion, hey, Johnny doesn't think he needs a Balenciaga shirt or a Gucci belt and I'm going to go rob somebody, or you just create economic opportunity, the motivation for crime goes away in its entirety. So when I say law enforcement, I mean the social responsibility of preserving consent for everybody. At current times, the people with the badges have not displayed any respect for the law whatsoever. Again, I'm in the jurisdiction of Elaine Bryant, of Andrew Ginther. I recently lost a property or had to move, again, on body camera, a police officer telling me, well, you're gonna have to move, after he refused to enforce the law after my neighbor threatened to kill me. And I am extremely exposed in, again, every time there's a camera around me or microphone, I go outside, there's still satellites. And so the broader intelligence apparatus has literally watched me stand outside, do literally nothing, and then somebody threatened me with my life. And then I call and report crime like you're supposed to, and it's just immediately the most disgusting experience on a personal level that I've ever encountered, and I'm the victim of crime every single day. And so that will be a fun learning experience, but again, as we started with this episode, and every episode, I don't have constitutional rights. I'm not going to go through all of the other evidence, but that will be a huge deal if law's ever enforced. And so frankly, not even focusing on the personal aspects because I've exhausted everything I could say there. The damages continue to accrue. The detriment to overall society continues to accrue as the Attorney General for saying, hey, look at all the people damaged by lying and suppressing science. That crime has to be prosecuted so profoundly independent of one person. And so truly not a focus on myself personally, but I am, again, the victim of crime at the filming of this video to such a profound level, it's heinously disgusting. But regardless, going through, there was a couple cases. I just have the Peralta case. A young woman was killed in the execution of police duties. This case I thought had a bunch of good points. It's an unfortunate tragedy for sure for the loss of life for the young woman, but a lot of points again for this overall law enforcement process that I wanted to talk about. And so this is a direct response to the video I watched was hosted on YouTube. They also have it on the LAPD website officially. You just have to scroll to the right date. It's the North Hollywood area, and that was on 12/23/21. And it is an LAPD official YouTube video currently, but into the future, I just want to give you enough details so you can find it, because I'm responding directly to the video presented. And so, basically the situation, so this came up on my radar because the actual incident was in 2021, and there was just a lawsuit that found no liability for the police officers. I want to say the liability was in a criminal sense, but again, typically, the procedure is criminal assessment of liability and then civil assessment of liability, which I'm still not sure if I totally agree with that. Haven't given it enough thought or nothing's popped up in terms of derivation that's like, we should do this or do that. But that we open up, we were in Hollywood, California, North Hollywood. I don't know the area whatsoever. We are at Burlington Coat Factory. A guy rides his bike. In the YouTube video presented by the police, you will see the actual chronology. But later on, you'll see the closed circuit TV CCW Burlington Coat Factory's internal camera system. And so a guy shows up there. He arrives on a bike. He's got one of those bike locks, which it looks like kind of like a rope with like a heavy metal thing, which I think is relevant for the case. And so he goes in there, he's on his bike, he kind of goes upstairs, he's not really causing a disturbance, and then he just seems to get in a little altercation with one of the employees, and he's swinging this bike lock around trying to smack kind of like glass fixturing, goes up and down the escalator a couple times, and then you have, if you just watch the body cam footage, kind of like the culmination of this action right after a violent battery causing bloodshed. We'll get there. But that is where we're at. And so you see that footage later, but right now you get introduced from the LAPD's video to the 911 calls, which that is the first place to start. Again, the citizen's responsibility of reporting crime. right? You're out there going about your day and Johnny's over there doing something. That's how police, and I would say, I don't know the statistic, but 9 times out of 10, they get called to a scene. We'll get to another case, actually, that has one where there's already on the scene, but not the point for right now. And so this responsibility of, we covered another case that immediately comes to mind. I don't know the details. It's in this series. Some chick calls, and it's like, hey, this guy has a gun. This guy's doing this. Police show up and shoot him. And so to the overall general principle, general idea, who should report crime, when should you report crime, and how certain and accurate should your details be? Well, again, shit hits the fan. A lot of phone calls are going to flood in. That's what you should do. But the citizenry should emphasize and be poignant about being accurate on the details. And so in these 911 logs, you will see and you will hear, well, I guess you'll hear the first chick. So I have caller 1, and I'll just read my notes and then respond in the general principles. But this first chick is the manager of the store, and she calls into the 911 operator. First point I wanted to make, citizens have a responsibility to report crimes accurately. We all seen it. You turn on a crime video, you turn on anything, and there's some fat bitch screaming. Don't do that. Do not call 911 and say, I know this, I don't know this. You can literally hear on my 911 call about my neighbor threatening to kill me. Even the police officer, this person has directly threatened my life. And he's like, the direct question is, does this person have a weapon? To which I explicitly say, I don't think so, because I don't think so. Even under the situation of, this guy is literally threatening to kill me, but I can see his overall apparatus from my assessment of the situation, it does not look like he has a weapon on him. And so it's still within my responsibility as a citizen, this is a real event, to not tell the police operator something that isn't true. Because if I say, hey, this guy has a gun, and he doesn't, even if he's threatening me, even if he's literally threatened my life, which he did, to exaggerate the details and cause a police response, I say, oh, yep, my neighbor has a gun. And my exact words is, I don't think so. They show up and maybe they shoot the guy or whatever. And I'm trying to emphasize, after you threaten my life, I don't care about yours, but I still have a social responsibility, not just to sick the dogs on them or just to exaggerate any detail to my benefit. And so, huge responsibility of the citizen, of the people, to report crime accurately. Don't be the fat bitch just screaming, because people don't know how to behave. And the vast majority of your entire life, you're not going to be engaged in serious situations or tense situations or life and death situations. And then people get exposed to that. They have no idea how to behave. And it's like they revert to like a movie. Oh my gosh, something bad's happened. I need to scream now. Don't do that. So the citizens have a profound responsibility to report crime accurately. But then we open up, and the immediate thing what happens is we have the manager of the store trying to report this crime, but at the same time trying to clear the environment as best she can. She's getting on the PA system, everybody get out, evacuate, clear, blah, 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 so on and so forth, which I think is the correct thing to do, right? As 21 Savage once said, you can call 12, but they're not going to stop this. And so you can call the police. And in my experience, that has been terrible. But focusing on, again, just the step-by-step, not about me in this case. And so the 911 operator immediately tries to assert authority over the manager, which is it's just like, people get it even associated with law enforcement. Now we're talking about a dispatcher, not a sworn officer of the law, which in current times means literally absolutely nothing. But you can literally hear to the first caller, the 911 operator is like, ma'am, I need you to listen to me. There's a dude running around smacking people, committing, at this point, they don't know if it's a gun, they don't know what's going on. So the right thing to do from the managerial perspective is to, hey, alert the customers. I think that is correct. But then to see the 911 operator try to be like, ma'am, you listen to me. It's like, what are you talking about? Someone breaks into your house and you can't be loud. You call 911, you leave it on speakerphone, you make no noise. Like, the 911 operator should be trained. It's like, hey, somebody's calling in. Don't get bitchy with them. And I have seen this on a bunch of body cam footage or police reportings where you hear the 911 calls. I've experienced this myself. Again, the overall maturity and execution of law enforcement by people with badges and everything associated is atrocious. And so if you're a 911 operator, you should just be collecting any information possible. This person has called 911 for a reason. It should be a severe consequence if you call that falsely or to report inaccurate information or to abuse 911 in any situation. It's already on the books, but it should be way more severe. Any case of swatting, lying to police to cause a law enforcement reaction to any extent is swatting, and it is profoundly severe. But she says, I need you to only answer questions. Like, no, this isn't some sort of fucking protocol. There's a guy running around, like, maybe killing people, maybe committing assaults, maybe committing battery, maybe shooting people. We don't know at this point. So the 911 operator's responsibility is to take in any information that is presented. Silence, screaming, cussing, this, that, anything. And so, that was what I have there. But so then we get you see the CCCW. I think you get all of the, and then you get the callers like later, but I just have the bike lock stated, no knives stated, and likely under the influence. So this manager explicitly says that there's a bike lock, she explicitly says no knives, and she explicitly says likely under the influence. From my perspective, it does look like he's wobbling around or seems intoxicated. But frankly, I don't think that really matters, because in the sense of like, your behavior is your behavior. So a drunk mind speaks sober thoughts. You have responsibility for your actions. Whatever you put in your body doesn't matter. If you're behaving in a way that violates the law, it shouldn't matter. And then kind of conversely, it's like, again, in my situation, not to use me personally, but, encompassing direct experiences and actions of like, again, data, not just Brad's data. But again, there's this, you can see, I watched one yesterday of the civil rights lawyer. And this guy gets pulled over, or somebody else hits him in his car, and basically the cop gets offended and he wants to assert any authority over him he can. He lies directly on camera in court, and the cop just says, hey, I can smell alcohol on your breath. Right? And it's like, at my house, I'm sitting there at my house at 6 p.m. on a Saturday, and I'm drinking a beer, and then my neighbor threatens to kill me randomly. Am I supposed to not have beer on my breath then? Like, could you go outside of a sports stadium and watch every single person leaving and just like say, I smell alcohol in their breath? Yeah. And so the point is, it's just this situations where cops want to go on a power trip. And I see that happen, I would say 999 times out of 1,000, but it's more like 999,000 out of 100,000. It's just like huge. Just fat people get power trips, and that's what happens. But this overall assessment of, hey, this person has alcohol in their breath should be extremely contextually dependent. Right? If you're at your fucking house eating dinner, it's different than if you're running around in public. But in general, I just see this, hey, he has alcohol in his breath, for a cop to assert anything over them they want. But in this case, again, no alcohol in the breath. His overall physical behavior seems inebriated. Again, just emphasizing what the caller said and an attenuation to being accurate reporting a crime. And so then we get a second caller, but it's a person screaming, a guy with a gun. And so from a citizen's perspective, terrible failure. You don't just say a person has a gun. You don't start screaming because, I don't know what's happening. I heard something, gun, and you get somebody killed. Again, inappropriately. But the 911 operator confirms from the second caller, yes, he shot the gun. And so you have you're getting mixed reports now, because all of these reports come into different officers, and which again, the actual transmission of data, again, we've talked about that a little bit. It should just be like directly routed to something. I'm not a fan of the 911 operator system as it's currently functioning, but I see it as rather minor. But point being is, this is the operators to the police officers' communication. We have explicit called in data that is different, one with a gun, one without. They're going to default to the gun. And that's the citizen's responsibility. There was no law enforcement guys with badges errors at this point, and throughout most of this interaction, I don't see much at all. And so then we have a third caller. Person calls in, a guy is making threats. I'm not sure if he has a gun. So first person explicitly says no knives. Second person says gun. Third person says I don't know. And so the police response is going to be that of an armed person, and that is on the citizen's responsibility. But again, it's still more of like a situational call, because again, I can see a ton of situations where you don't know, but then you just say you don't know. But we have people, we get a good section throughout this video of the CCTV pulled up, and so you see units arrive. I'm going to read my notes. We have a CCTV video of assault battery. So it kind of takes his pants off, which bold move, Cotton. And he has a heavy jacket on. So again, again, from the citizen perspective, reporting crime, this is when you say you don't know. You don't want to overstate it and you don't want to understate it. You just don't know. Heavy jacket. I can't confirm, operator, what he has. But a four-person unit shows up, guns are drawn. It seems a two to four person unit shows up after that, and then a lot more. And so a huge presence comes onto the scene. On the CCTV, you see him assaulting people. He starts off kind of like hitting one woman, which once that happens, it's a huge deal. Somebody's stumbling around the environment, even if they're, like, frankly, even if they're taking their pants off. Indecent exposure, definitely. Were we all born naked? Yes. Undressing publicly, indication of under the influence or just not behaving correctly, yes. But then once you go to what should be called assault, but what is currently called battery, then it's just, I mean, that's just a very clear line of you put your hands on somebody else, it's a huge deal. And so at this point, he's committed battery, he's committed assault. And so all of the people have the right to defend themselves, and you should do so appropriately. But point being is now we have this big law enforcement, they're on, guns are drawn, everything is, I want to say ready to go, but things are active. And so then this guy commits another aggravated battery. He's literally with this bike lock, and you can see it on the CCTV. I mean, it's most of the situations where, again, it's citizen committing crime against law enforcement. I always put, more responsibility on the law enforcement. You have the weapons, you have the equipment. Again, assuming it's somebody that's not armed. Again, we've talked about knives specifically. Again, even if you have a good clearing distance, you should have, again, a personal assessment of, hey, I'm not just looking for a reason to shoot somebody. Once somebody's already committed an assault or a battery, again, person to cop, there should be a substantial amount of responsibility for the cop to de-escalate appropriately. I mean, if somebody has a gun and pointing at you, you should have already shot. But again, even with knives, like if you just know how to, like, again, clear the distance. But in this case right now, what we have, we're just going to focus on this, is we have somebody that's already committed battery and assault. We have the police officers, the guys with badges and guns, responsibility to preserve public safety. And so now I want to refresh, again, we've had this caller, the first caller was the manager telling people to get out of the store, to evacuate, maybe even to take cover. And so the police engage, they're going, I don't know the direction, but they're going down just your typical retail store main hallway or thing, and there's like shelving on the right, and the guy is wailing on this chick with a bike lock. And this is go watch the video yourself. He kind of does pull away from the chick, but he is at this point where you're on scene, you're chambered, your point, it is your call. You should engage if you can safely neutralize the target and not hit the victim. Right? Because now we're at the point of engagement. This is a completely legitimate engagement. This is person being one heavy bike lock to the head, to the temple, you're dead. And I put that at a lower bar for engagement. If he has a bike lock charging a cop, again, you should maintain clearing distance, but you can still engage lethally, but it's just like, have some fucking okay, I can get away from this. But in this case, we have a citizen assaulting another citizen. And so it is the law enforcement presence on scene to preserve that life. And so we have a clear violation of the law, clear violation engagement that would require lethal force. And it even, frankly, again, I'm going scene by scene, the immediate scene is engage. But again, if you can engage safely. And so then the guy kind of backs off, and then the officers fire. First shot, there was 3 shots total, strikes the officer, and then the other 2 bullets will get there with the unfortunate consequences. Tragedy, certainly. But as somebody who could not be going through law enforcement footage with a finer tooth comb, this engagement, I thought for the most part, there was only criticism I have is there's some fat fuck when you guys are going up the escalator, and you can tell he's jittery. And then the sergeant, whoever seems to be the chief or the ranking officer on scene's hey, let me take point, I have the rifle, and there's one other guy kind of getting antsy. And it's people have never been exposed, kind of get jittery, I guess. I'm not a fan of that, seeing that, but if it's your first time being exposed to a situation like that, overall, again, I can't really find anything, not that I'm looking to, but to me, this is a fine law enforcement engagement. And then we've neutralized the threat, and what do we find out? There was a girl and her mother hiding in the, taking shelter, covering in the dressing room, you have no idea they're in there. And so this was, again, big, like most a good engagement, overall protocol, procedure, points of contact, points of decision making. I can find basically no fault. And then, hey, a bullet ricocheted off the ground and killed a 14-year-old. Obvious tragedy. So what do? What is the result? And again, this is where this whole case came up on my radar, is the city finds no liability. I would certainly, I think the news headline or the result, the court proceeding, was the criminal situation. Frankly, in this situation, this is one where I wouldn't even recommend criminal charges at all. This would just be, holy fucking shit, this is about as good protocol as you can. Again, the manager's kind of telling people at the beginning, I mean, we're still at the citizen responsibility, not law enforcement. And so it's just like, you have someone who's like made the decision to hunker down as opposed to evacuate. You don't know if that's a good or bad decision in the time. You have an engagement situation where you have no, it was the officer supposed to be like, oh, there's a changing room right there. I mean, there's no reasonable, and again, I'm the person that would criticize that immediately. And so it seems fine engagement. I mean, it's a tragedy. And so I would find, again, this is one of those things where it's like I have no criminal responsibility for the law enforcement officers, minor criticisms throughout the actual incident. And then I don't know what you would do in this situation. I would give financial compensation to the victim's family, and I don't think that's a good outcome. But this is just one of those things where you live in a world, right? You have somebody running around threatening public safety. You have as pretty much as a textbook good engagement as you possibly can, and you still have innocent loss of life. And then there's who is there to blame? Again, who is there to blame for industrial accidents when they've actually passed safety inspections and, the pressure, temperature situations of this thing just happened to combust, in a freak accident. I mean, I would equate this case as a freak accident of an industrial situation where it's fuck, just what do you do? And so with feeling not even shitty about myself, but just feeling shitty about the situation, I would give them some sort of civil settlement, but no criminal obligation or criminal charges. I totally agree with that for the officers. And then again, it just seems to be one of these cases where it's just life fucking happens and it sucks. But I did want to cover this because this is again, as close to as a good textbook protocol engagement as I can find, or again, that pops up. It's not like I'm super looking for stuff, but that definitely came up. So again, back to this overall law enforcement, it's the society's responsibility. Frankly, not to say, again, good, bad, neutral, or whatever, it is a reality of life. You go out into public, you're amongst other people, you're more in the social dynamic of society playing out in the same way, right? You're not going to get in a car accident if you stay in your house. It doesn't mean stay in your house, but it just means shit happens. And this is one of those cases where I think shit happens with the tragedy, loss of life. And so that is just what I have there in response to that video. I thought that was a good case to go over. Two other minor cases and with the same type of theme, overall point of this video. And so again, we've covered this before, but civilian engagement. And so specifically, this Boston, we had a guy open fire outside of kind of close to Cambridge, kind of close to Harvard. I don't know, maybe the math department's not doing too good, but just seems to be a citizen of the greater Cambridge, Boston area, and decides to pop out with the 223s, the 5.56s, who knows, some sort of rifle-looking caliber, and he's literally just shooting at fucking cars. And so again, the ultimate crash out needs to end. Again, you can't cash in if you crash out. But truly, when we're talking about, in science specifically, expected behavior, the concept of oh, let's go do some random violent shit, to me that is barnacly insane already. But it will certainly fucking go away, and the faster we can speed that shit up, the better. But guy decides to pop out with the AR pistol or some bullshit and just start firing. And so the legal law enforcement, again, society's responsibility of preserving consent. We had a Marine veteran. He aids Boston PD when a man opens fire. And so guys just, about as random as you can get. And so the Marine vet specifically pulls a woman out of a car. There's no footage of this because he's not wearing a body cam. And so But like, should a civilian or somebody with military law enforcement training, try to enter an active situation? I think virtually not. Because there was another case we covered where there was a police officer getting shot at. He's in a ditch, and another cop's driving by. He's like, "Oh, I was on my way to Canada. I don't have my service pistol. Where's your backup?" And the cop is literally like, "Oh." I mean, he's getting shot at. He almost got shot. I mean, he was like falling around kind of like a grassy berm. Again, we've covered the case if you need more details. And so the officer ends up like, "Yeah, man, take my backup. It's in my boot holster." And so it's just like, those are field calls, but those are ones where it's just like, you just need to know who is who. I also remember another situation with Dan Bilzerian, and there was a big Vegas shooter, one of like the most deadly mass casualty events, dude up in Vegas just shooting down at a music festival. I think it was like 50 plus dead. But Dan Bilzerian was like there, and he was like, "Dude, like, I'm a gun guy, like, give me a rifle, bro, let's all engage." Which I understand, like, the social sentiment, but then it's just it's the rank and file, it's the chain of command. It's just, these people have, who's on the cops team when they're all in fucking uniform. If some civilian tries to engage and police show up on scene, as we just covered, with a bunch of people, again, by no fault of the law enforcement, the callers calling in different information, they don't know who's who, they're trying to figure out what the fuck's going on. And then you have citizens pulling out guns, that's just a recipe for disaster. In the case we referenced with the police officer taking out his secondary out of his boot and giving it to the guy, he does so. Risky move, but I think Donut Operator covered that one. But that's just, I just think, I mean, obviously the officers have made calls and they agree with that, but just 99 times out of 100, or every time, you shouldn't engage as a civilian at all. Even if it's just for, again, in these cases, it's like, again, other law enforcement officers that are off duty, military people that are off duty, and I still think no. It's just, you don't have the chain of command of being with your communication systems, with your logging, with your transmitting the information. And so I just think it provides an added element of confusion with profound detriment. You just, again, even seeing police officers, man, their lines of fire, they get all over each other all of the time. They can shoot each other. Still emphasizing to the police officers, guys with badges responding, chambered rounds, level 4 plates, 30-06 rated, ready to go. You still have to assess the overall public safety threat, right? And we'll get to another case here shortly, but you want to, again, public safety is what you're doing. And so if someone's running out and stealing something and is even like threatened you, but they're not an imminent threat to the public, it's like, should you pursue? How much should you pursue? Should we cause $100,000 of vehicle damage to stop somebody stealing $1,200 because, well, they violated the law, now boys and blues are rolling? It's like this overall discretion, this overall maturity, this overall decision-making process needs to be more mature. And so back to our Marine vet aiding this Boston PD department or officer. I mean, there wasn't much video. We've seen the video of the guy shooting, but you don't really see this the Marine vet helping the Boston PD. And so pulling the person to safety, I mean, if you want to do that, again, I just don't, I mean, I personally wouldn't do that, frankly. But this person does. I'm going to go, hey, pull somebody out of their car. I think everyone should just shelter as best you can. You're obviously going to try to save your loved ones. But shit hits the fan, hunker down, protect yourself first. Same way, it's like you're on the airplane, your mask comes down, you're losing the oxygen, put yours on first. Secure your safety first. If you feel like you can comfortably do something, again, in the case of like pulling somebody to safety, he's like getting a woman out of her car who's scared of gunfire. That's fine. Again, I'm still like any sort of like law enforcement procedure, stay clear. But then he engages the suspect with his pistol. And so I disagree with that. In this case, it didn't end up bad. Again, how you communicate, again, more officers are going to show up. If they're going to see a guy in plain clothes, you spit one bit of data wrong, one caller getting different information, and you just have people shooting random people. And so I do not think, regardless of your background, training, specialties, spec ops, operational sec, whatever, MOS, doesn't matter. It's just like you have a chain of command, you have rules of engagement, and you have a way to preserve that safety and that efficiency of preserving public safety. And to mess with that, it just causes profoundly more detriment can occur and a very little, if any, benefit can occur. So I'm heavily against civilian engagement alongside police officers. Like, yeah, let's get the bad guy, even though that social sentiment of, you know, I'm just going about my day in Boston, shit's hitting the fan, not my town, I'm going to protect it too. It's more of a logistical nightmare than it is, you know, not the right thing to do. And so, unless given more convincing anything, I'm heavily, if not fully, against all off-duty or trained or civilian engagement alongside law enforcement. And so for our last case, kind of, you know, along the same type of lines, we had a 23-year-old male in Gastonia, North Carolina. His name was Derek Manigault. He was killed by off-duty cops after threatening people in a gas station. Once again, we're back at the gas station. Do you want to lose your life tonight? So in this case, again, recent case, you can look it up. I'm giving you enough information to find the details because I don't edit these videos at all. But we have a guy, 23-year-old male. Frankly, he looks like fucking 40. Holy shit. But he is in there all read out. He's got the Balenciaga. That's what I was thinking earlier when I referenced that. But he's basically, you have some altercation. So for the actual citizen-to-citizen interaction in this case, you don't get much lead-in. But he's arguing with some customer or some other citizen outside of this gas station. He goes into the gas station. The argument kind of continues in. And there's an off-duty cop or either off-duty or plain clothes. And so basically the customer and Derek Manigault, this guy in all red, Derek escalates the situation, or it seems like it. And again, I want to point out any bit of evidence, right? If the guy in the red, he ends up getting shot and killed. If there was if the other citizen was threatening and you just don't have this on camera, again, what do you do, right? If let's say you're carrying or you're not carrying and someone's genuinely threatening your life, do you say, oh, bro, I got it right here? Again, I have referenced in the past where it's like, the point of carrying is to be able to defend yourself, and part of defending yourself is a deterrent. All law enforcement, well, not all, but all of your people with badges are, you know, chambered open carry, which to me is the most sensible thing. Point being is just, again, citizen to citizen engagement. We've gone on of all the points of, you know, saying, hey, you know, definitely back off, drawing, pointing as a different decision-making consequential steps. But we have a guy in a gas station saying, do you want to lose your life tonight? So we have the verbiage of definitely battery, definitely, you know, this could go south immediately. And like, what is that headspace? Like, hey, I'm so tough, right? I'm so tough. You're gonna lose your life tonight. It's like any sort of antagonism to violence outside of, again, direct defense. And if you're defending yourself, you don't have to think about it as one of those common law things where it's just like, this person's threatening me, I defend myself. But it's all of this tough guy shit. I have no fucking understanding of what it is, right? Because if you need to defend yourself, you're not sitting there like, bro, do you want to die tonight, bro? You just defend yourself. So any sort of violent antagonism, I don't even functionally understand. But he is in there, and there was an off-duty police officer, or again, off-duty or plain, I think he's plain clothes, because I think he's executing official police business, at least in the reports, which again, as a journalist who does this, and then I can't find like the raw source data without like looking. It's all just like a Facebook link, and it's just like, fucking Christ, man. You can't even be a journalist and find like a lot of stuff. It's so frustrating. Because everything is just like a minute and a half clickbait, you know, highlight. I was like, I want to see the whole situation. But we have I want to say minor detail in this case, but an on-duty officer, plain clothes, doing an alcohol compliance check at the gas station. So nobody's been called to the scene. This is just a citizen happening to be around a detective who I want to say is on duty. At this point, in this case, it doesn't matter at all. So we have Derek, he's waving around, or he's saying, you know, do you want to lose your life tonight? And at the same time, while he's right-handed, pulls out his concealed carry, which this is, I want to take a moment to make fun of Derek for his hilariously stupid behavior. Carrying a fake gun and then trying to act like it's a real gun has got to be the stupidest shit you can ever fucking do. Because it's purely, at that point, it is purely to be the tough guy. I am so tough, I'm going to carry a fake gun, I'm going to threaten life in a serious, direct, meaningful way, and then I'm going to pull out that gun What do you think is going to happen? And so, again, trying to emphasize his psychology, it's just no matter how tough you think you are, and again, this isn't somebody to me that's exposed to like real shit. The concept of carrying a fake gun to threaten people as if it's an actual gun is immediately the stupidest shit in the world in a country where there's like 5 guns to every 1 person. Wow, what could happen here? And so immediately you can see the officer, he's at the counter. Derek is behind him with this other customer, your typical kind of cramped gas station. Go watch the video. But you can see the cops like, okay, this is an engagement situation, and it is, even from a citizen's perspective. And so again, not going to make this a, what win again, well, might as well. Again, should a citizen engage, right? To me, in this case, it does not matter if the guy's a cop or a citizen. We have somebody waving around a gun threatening, do you want to lose your life tonight? If it was just a citizen, he is not directly engaged in the conflict and just on a personal preservation, I would say, hey, I'm going to like save myself and run away. But to me, in this case, a citizen engagement would be completely fine. To shoot, to neutralize, bang, bang, you're done. Have a nice night. See you later. But the Derek kind of like leaves the actual store, and then the cop pulls out his gun and shoots and neutralizes the threat. And so fine, shoot, again, is still an added consideration where, again, doesn't know it's a fake gun, doesn't matter. It does not matter whatsoever. You're saying you want to lose your life, you pull out something that looks like a gun, you were assaulting, right? You were presenting the facade, the presence that you can kill somebody, and you're like, here, look at this thing. That's engagement, no questions asked. The only, again, added consideration, he's leaving the store. And so he's no longer engaging this guy. He's leaving the store, the cop open fires, it's a fine shoot, but the consideration there is, again, the overall public safety. Is there somebody at the next gas pump? And the cop doesn't know if it's a real or fake gun, so he has to assess, is this interaction, is this guy that was just threatening this guy specifically, is he still an imminent threat to the people outside? So that is an added consideration. Saying, do you want to lose your life tonight, and then waving around a real gun, the fact that everybody in the gas station didn't shoot him is a little bit surprising to me. But again, pointing out every decision-making place. So it doesn't matter to me, cop engages, a citizen engage. In this situation, a citizen should have the same rules of engagement, right? Cops should have a higher level. And it's still just emphasizing, you're in a situation like this, it's always imminent threat to the public. Again, I don't see, again, I very literally can't see like him walking out. Is he walking menacingly? Is he just kind of starting acting more erratically? But again, fine shoot, but it still is the kind of the immediate altercation is kind of dwindled. Do you want to, totally officer's call, and at current times, like I said, no respect for the actual decision maturity level. I've negotiated the most important truce in the history of Earth. It is not public because, well, it's classified and my rights are violated. That's where we started this episode, and that's where we're ending this episode. So the overall, again, decision-making points of contact from the citizenry to the guys with badges, to the lawyers, to the judges, to the business owners, to everybody, it is a social responsibility for law enforcement. And then even just like a civil note, or it's just, in this case, Derek, the one we just finished with, his fiance, there was a statement, I was going to read the whole thing, but she's just basically saying, things were lied about, things were omitted, this happened and this happened. And to me, that's another point of, again, social responsibility. I have no way to verify what she says is true or not true. I have, the video evidence of what we can verify definitively from the engagement. But this whole thing, it's like somebody in my camp gets affected, right? Somebody's threatened somebody, they get shot and killed. Oh my gosh, he still got shot and killed. Somebody has to be wrong. It's just not true. People do wrong things. People commit crimes. People endanger other people's lives. People say, I am selfish enough that my desires matter more than other people's rights, more than other people's consent. And so that is the purpose of the justice system, is to preserve consent. Again, I am not consenting to be deprived of my rights, my property, have the complete inability to have a family, to have health care. I have grave bodily harm under the behest and the jurisdiction of Michael DeWine, Elaine Bryant, Andrew Ginther, so on and so forth. But I thought there were some good points of discussion for overall protocol in law enforcement in its entirety. My rights continue to be violated. I continue to beg, truly, for asylum, for a little bit of money. I live in my parents' house where this has destroyed my life. The reputational damage is so profound and severe. It's like the damage is already done. Like, for sure, for real. It's like, oh, our friends decided Brad was a mentally ill, weird person for saying letters have shapes, which he proved, and we're actually just delusional, but we can't accept that, so we just don't talk about anything. And it's just like, you guys just committed like every major felony that ever existed against a child profoundly. It's like, it's just Brad. Nobody gives a shit, as it's always been. And like that's the real behavioral pattern of the people around me. And so, thought there were some good points. Again, I haven't been doing this language litigation and integration too much, because again, my rights remain violated. There was nothing else to say. And I continue to beg for some sort of decency, for a little bit of money, to eat properly, to sleep properly, and to work with no expectation that will ever change. And I continue to value my ability to make videos more than anything else, because regardless of how much bullshit's going on, my days tick past like everybody else's. And so, continue to emphasize to everybody suppressing science, you are so far on the wrong side of history, it's disgusting. And each day, each time you make a decision, you have the capacity to do the right thing, tell the truth about science, enforce the law, respect what is proven. Not doing so causes, again, more profound death and suffering than has ever been recorded in history. That's you out there. You just don't think it's you because you're a pathetic fuck. But it is the consequences of your actions. If you are a part of the society where you think it's your job to play games all day and compete over nothing, and the biggest thought in your head right now is, how do I make more money at my career? You don't even have an awareness or a maturity to think about the world around you. And that's everybody I've ever met. So that is what I have for you today. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one.